Hey, True Believers Englentine here. Want to talk about the ongoing culture war in comic books that seems to be heating up again for some reason. I don't know why. I know I've gotten more involved. I watched a video by my friend Tristan. Now, we disagree. We agree. And when we disagree, it's respectful. There are some points I touched on, because when I saw that, I said, you know what, I want to talk about this. First of all, I want to speak on a little bit about what I think is going on here. One of the things I always feel weird about is you hear somebody say, the problem with comic books is, well, there's not one. And whatever that video is focused on, you always get at least one commenter saying, I can't believe you think that's the problem when it's this. There's many, and usually when a video is bringing up, the problem with comic books is they do this. That's just for that video. Look at others. They're going to expand on that. And that's kind of what's going to go on here. This is a free rant. Basically, it's an old man yelling at clouds today. That's what I'm going to be doing. So one thing you also have to know is that, for the most part, the culture war is not a widespread thing. I think it's coming for you. No matter whether you like it or not, people are experiencing it. And this is not new. TV, movies, and so forth have been used for propaganda for a long time. The thing is, I think they're more blatant about it. You know, propaganda used to be something that was a little bit clandestine, and now it's just overt. It's right there. It's in front of you. One of the problems, of course, when we're talking about the comic book culture war, one thing that's always brought up is the ginger side, which coincides with a race swapping. If you're redhead, you're going to be changed. I'm sorry. You might get to keep the red hair, but you can't keep the white skin. The two of them together just irritate people, I guess. So movie companies decide that's not going on. Recently, also, in certain situations, like right now, they've decided that the best way to deal with the fact that minorities were not treated as well in the past is to make sure that white people aren't treated as well now. That's racism. I'm sorry, it is. Look, you're born into a world that's already in progress. Just put on a helmet if you need one. It's not going to be an easy ride, and that is also for the people who are being turned down based on the race, but it should never be about that. And one of the things, though, is anytime you bring up the fact that, hey, you know what, you're doing a book here about this character, why are you gender, why are you race, why are you anything swapping this character, because it loses who that character is when you do that kind of thing. You're not writing about that person anymore. Spider-Man is not black, but Miles Morales is. Don't make Miles Morales Spider-Man. Make Miles Morales his own identity. That oh my gosh, you want to hear the ignorant, uncreative types go mad at you? Suggest that they should have their own identity. And ask yourself this: if you are changing, or if you are race swapping or something, what's the narrative idea? Like, what is the story idea that makes this valuable? If you cannot answer it, then you are doing diversity for diversity's sake, or virtue signaling. If there is no reason beyond, well, we felt representation needed to be, if you feel representation needs to be made, then by all means create a character based on whatever reputation you feel needs to be made. Don't just switch a character. You have to have a narrative reason. Otherwise, you're pandering, you're virtue signaling. Now, growing up, I was taught when people were pandering to you, they were being condescending. You don't trust someone like that. And unfortunately, it seems like it just isn't the way it is anymore these days, kids. A lot of people like being pandering too, but what you gonna do? Another thing that happens, and this is something that, and I'm gonna call Tristan out on this, because she mentioned, of course, that she doesn't like Vita Ayala books anymore, and the thing is that a lot of us have already been through it. This is not something that you come to easily. You read the books, you see the movies, you you experience. And what ends up happening is whatever it was that you once loved about the character or so, or something, it just isn't there anymore. By the time I got to putting down Vita, I've read a lot of her content and just realized that the one thing that she does, and a lot of modern day writers do, you see it with the Tom Taylor, you see putting the agenda before the story. See, comic books have always been political. They really have. All the way back to the Adventures of Old Buck, the first known comic book. All the way back since then, comic books have been political. But the story has come first, and that's why the politics didn't seem as overt. Right now, it's flat out. Look what Tom Taylor is doing with Superboy. He's absolutely making sure that Tom Taylor's politics is represented in Superboy, or Superman Man, or Son of Kal-El, as they call it. And unfortunately, that is one of the things that just destroys comics, because after a while you don't want to be preached to, and after a while the arrogance of the writer, the arrogance of the artist just comes forth. They are absolutely 100% right in everything they think they know, and by God, you're an evil freaking person if you don't recognize it, and then that's bad. And bringing up the Tom Taylor thing also brings up another. It's that it's all self-inserts. Comic book heroes, comic book villains, the characters themselves have their voice, and you can find that voice by reading the back issues. By reading, start Spider-Man from the Stan Lee years, you'll find out who Spider-Man is, even through different writers, different artists, different incarnations that aren't what ifs and so forth. And then you come across the modern writers, and instead of finding their voice, finding the voice of the character, they insert their own voice. Look, when you're reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Captain America, you're not reading Steve Rogers. You're not reading Captain America. You're reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' cosplay as Captain America. And that's one of the big problems. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about the bad writing and the bad editing, everything going on in that. But what ends up happening, of course, is when you say something along those lines, when you say something like, you know what, you shouldn't put Ironheart in Iron Man, or in my case, the one thing that I'm really mad about is that they take away Falcon's identity, give him his white partner's identity, and call it a promotion. When you say stuff like that, the woke side just cannot handle the argument, so they make something up. They'll listen to you defend and say this person, these minority characters need their own identity, and they'll go, well, you just don't like black people. You don't like gay people. You don't, it's bothersome to have somebody who's this. They absolutely make up a motive so they can argue that motive. I believe Tristan brought up the presence of a transgendered Amazon. Yes, if it's a man, absolutely, it shouldn't be there. That's just the thing, because it goes against what we know about Amazons. I think it would have been a much better way to go to a woman that has decided to live as a man, and now she gets transported over to Amazon. I was about to say Amazon Island, to Themyscira. And how about this? She is now trapped because she has to be there in the body of the woman, even though she's trans and feels like she wants to be a man. That's a far more interesting story, because the one that they came up with is a one-shot. That's it. Oh, but you're accepted. Okay, done. That story's done. It was done in one panel. There's far more interesting stories to be told if you go in the other direction, but they're not willing to actually explore what it means. I remember when North Star came out as gay way back in the 1990s, or was it late 80s? Anyway, it would have been cool, especially back then, where people were not as understanding, and not necessarily mean towards, although I think that is the truth, but more understanding. and not as understanding. I think it would have been more interesting to see maybe some prejudiced villains not even bothering in a fight because they didn't want to get blood on them and get the AIDS and stuff like that. See, but that wasn't the case. And now it's not the case that you actually want to explore what might be some hardships felt by the by any minority or something. It's just having them there is enough. That's pandering. That's virtue signaling. If you have some sort of good narrative, then okay. Then you've got something. So but you also, when you're bringing this kind of stuff up, you need to be careful in how you say it. One of the things that she brought up was the use of MCU in damn near every video. She brought up Nerdette, and he does use it in every damn near every video. I think now, of course, that's something that the audience is going to go. When you put MCU in there, there's a certain audience that's going to come around and go, ha ha. It's the confirmation bias group. They're looking for people who agree with them, and everybody does that. I don't watch the Young Turks. I watch Ben Shapiro because I'm a conservative, and I look for people who agree, and you kind of feel good to get that confirmation bias. Everybody does it. But when you do it too much, you got to start going, yeah? Are you really saying this? Or are you really, or are you at this point in time just kind of saying it because you need to keep up your clicks? You need to keep, they used to say, all he's doing it for is the clicks and views. I would say, well, yeah. Even the videos that you're 100% sincere on, you're doing for the views and clicks. So I try to stay away from that phrase. But what is the real problem? What is the real problem comes up as a question when somebody says, they would say when Riri Williams was replacing Iron Man. They replaced her with a teenage black girl. I hated when people say that. Or they would say, they need to make good comics. I didn't like that either because, one, it's not about Riri Williams' race, the fact that she's a teenager, or the fact that she's a girl. It's about the fact that they replaced Tony Stark when the movies with Tony Stark were going strong. It was about the fact that instead of giving them their own identity, they took and replaced. And that's the real problem. That's the core of the problem. The problem when you would hear people say, all I want is good comics. Well, you know what? They believe they're giving those to you. So you have to define it. You have to make sure what you're saying when you bring stuff up. And so I would be very careful in the way you word, or I'm going to be careful in the way that I word things going forward when apparently jumping into the fray again. But the one thing, and I do want to bring this up with Tristan, and this is real serious, and if she's made it, and hello Tristan to you, this is not just a problem with you. This is not just something you've said. A lot of people get this wrong, and by God, it's been irking me. It's been irking me since I was a young man, and frickin' hell, I've got to confront it right now. There is no proof in the freaking pudding, kids. Okay? The proof is not in the pudding. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. I'm sorry, I can't do that serious all the way through it. But yeah, that is true. That's just one of those little quirks of mine. I've always like, guys, no. The proof is not in the pudding. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. That's the phrase. Anyway, gang, that's my opinion. What is yours? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, click like and share and do all that kind of stuff to help out the algorithm, because we're trying to breathe new life into this particular channel. Alrighty, I'm a little bit more excited now about it, and I want you to get more excited about it as well. Leave a couple of words in the comment section just to push this channel forward. Even if you're not the type to leave a comment, leave the comment that you're not the type to leave a comment. Just say hi. And don't forget to click like, share, subscribe. And if you don't mind helping out the channel, the link to the Ko-Fi is in the description below. Thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good time, kids.